yeah, I think the biggest alumni we have in the forum program, because we have actually stopped counting the many times that he was in our section. Please welcome on stage James Benning.
Thank you. Yeah, it's so great to show here, to have an audience that kind of knows what they might be seeing. And because of that, I won't say anything about what this film is. It's called 8 Bridges, but if you saw 10 skies, or 13 lakes, then you know.
Please welcome back on stage James Benning. Thank you for the 8 bridges, and thank you for reminding us of 10 skies and 13 lakes. I checked the filmography, they were both 2004, and they were in the forum in 2005. And this is 22 years since. They're of course not the only ones that are setting the pattern that you come back to with this film. You were part of Forum last year with Little Boy, a film that works very different from this kind of pattern. What made you return to the numeric and very reduced and very minimalist landscape film?
Oh, I think the state of the world made me think about we needed bridges. And I thought, okay, I'll film some bridges. But then it also occurred to me it would give me the opportunity to revisit my country and try to get a feel for what was happening. So it was an excuse to do a long drive and to keep my eyes open. But then when I visited bridges, I realized they weren't just about bridging gaps. They were built by governments, and they served commerce and capitalism. And they also became a place to jump from. The Rio Grande Bridge, which is the second bridge in the film, when we finished driving, I think 10,000 miles, 3 weeks later, 3 people jumped off of that bridge, not at the same time. One was a 15-year-old boy and a 60-year-old Army veteran, and the other person was just described as a person from Albuquerque. And the Golden Gate Bridge had, before they put up nets, 30 people per year would jump off of that bridge. So that was disconcerting to me, that that we don't take care of our people properly. So it was, the idea of the film came from these earlier works and are very about looking and listening and building a structuralist film, but at the same time, I think there's hints of history in this film also.
Was the chronology of the order of the bridges, did it match your journey?
I made a separate trip first to see if I was up for this kind of ordeal. And a graduate student of mine who was still hanging around California said he would drive me up to the Golden Gate and up to Astoria. So the very first shot and the very last shot I made in June of this past year. And then Neuge Riemschneider here in Berlin was kind enough to send an assistant to help me to go to the other 6 bridges, and they're in the order that we shot them.
You used the opportunity to present the poster, the LED poster on the front of
Yes.
the Delphi Cinema, which looks incredibly beautiful. But not only beautiful, but I don't know if you saw it. I hope many of you saw it coming in from that side. So it's like a black US of A on a white canvas. And one can also see the little dots. So 4 of the bridges are at the seaside and 4 are inside the country.
Mm-hmm.
Did that make a difference?
Well, that was the other thing. I wanted to represent the whole of US, and I also wanted to make references to other films of mine like RR, so I wanted to include one railroad bridge. And the idea was to have a train on that bridge, but then the weather was so beautiful that I thought, I don't want a train, I just want to record the weather. And I don't know if you noticed, the shot before that is on Mississippi, that very muddy. There's a white train that's on the opposite side of the river that's very small. So I thought, well, I already have a train, I don't need to, bring another one in. And I really like it without it because there's an anticipation that isn't satisfied, and then in the last shot, it's kind of you get satisfied by this huge, and that was, I didn't even know there was a port there that just happened. This big ocean-going boat went by. I was very happy.
That was a coincidence, are you saying?
Yeah. I actually wanted that to happen in the first shot. In the Golden Gate, and then there were all these other tourist boats and things, and I thought, oh, that's even better. So, and then there's fortuitous events that happen in the bridge on the Alabama River. There's a boat that goes underneath, and that's the Edmund Pettus Bridge. That became infamous from the Bloody Sunday in March 7th, 1965, when the blacks of Alabama were going to do a march from Selma to Montgomery, and they were attacked by, well, the 1965 version of ICE. And that's history, of course, and that history has been condemned, as will the unrest that's happening today.
So you, for example, the Edmund Pettus Bridge, that was a bridge that you would deliberately go to because you knew the history beforehand?
Yes, and I wanted to, it's a very famous bridge in my own life. It moved me when I was 15 or 16 when that happened. I was just discovering activism at that time, and that was a major event in my life. So some of the bridges are very personal, like that one. The very last bridge is in Astoria, and I was married at one time, and my wife, when she was a teenager, lived in Astoria, and we went to visit Astoria after we had been married, and we found out that she was pregnant after we got home, with my daughter Sadie. So that's a great memory too. So it's nostalgic for me, but not in that awful sense of nostalgia.
In a way, so since bridges are usually where is water, so we have the sound of water, and it does remind or recall the 10 lakes. Sorry, the 13 lakes. And not so much for me the 10 skies, because 10 skies really was more about, for me at least, frame and image and weather. So for me, this film is kind of it's a link between not just the 13 lakes or the structuralist film, but also the objects of the infrastructure that, as you say, carry history, but are also objects themselves as infrastructure that are representing also some kind of monumentality in many cases. And technology or technique?
Yeah, the George Washington Bridge, for instance, has 100,000 cars and trucks pass over that bridge per day. So it's just this whole symbol of overconsumption, and it makes me nervous when I watch that shot.
It's also the noise kind of cover. I mean, it overlays the natural sounds.
Yeah, and that's of course the Hudson River, and there's a barge that goes down, so there's another piece of commerce happening there. So it's references to that kind of.
And how much time? Was there an average of time that you spent when you were shooting, or did it differ from?
Yeah, 10 minutes. It's funny because when I did the first two bridges, we went to the Golden Gate, and I did a shot there. And I just did one shot, and I thought I like this, and then we went up to Selma, or up to Oregon, up to Astoria, and we did a shot there, and I just did one, and then I finally downloaded the cards and looked at them. I thought I liked it, and then we went back to the Golden Gate, and I did two more shots, and I didn't like those, so then I thought, I'll just do one shot at every place, so that's what I ended up doing. But I was careful, I kind of knew what I wanted to get. And we also looked ahead as we were driving to figure out what the weather would be, so we would either hurry up or stall to get there at certain times of the day. So we didn't do a lot of waiting around. We would get there at kind of the time that I thought the light would be right. And I was in Google Earth and searched around, so I pretty much even knew where the camera would be placed. It's so easy to make films now,
You're also saying you used AI? I mean, you Google Earth in a way.
Yeah, it's my AI. I didn't do this at all.
We got it all wrong. We trusted you, sending us this film that you made. And coming back to what you said in the very beginning, because you also insisted kind of on us having only that sentence to describe the film, which is your quote, and it says, "It seems to be the time to consider bridges." And you started telling about bridges are not only about bridging gaps, but also what?
Yeah, where they're built and who builds them and who puts up the money and who who do they really service and what services do they provide. I grew up in Milwaukee, and there's a funny story about Milwaukee. There were a number of different leaders, and parts of the city were built by two different leaders on each side of the Milwaukee River, and they hated each other. So they built their own roads without the consideration of what was happening on this side. So then once they kind of formed the city, the bridges are on all these odd angles because the streets don't match up. So it's, I just thought of that now, but I have this strange bridge history in my mind of a really attempt to connect the city that was unconnected, which is very kind of an interesting idea. But yeah, I think one has to look at where does the money come from, and what is the meaning of these places, you know, the bridges that are built, who did they serve to begin with, and how many people, who builds them, and who dies on them when they build, and you know, those kinds of questions are important.
But not as exit. I mean, you mentioned the suicidal bridge, which is, but not as exits in a way of like getting away from where one is and where one doesn't want to be any longer. Do you also conceive it that way?
I don't know. I mean, I don't see them as a way of fleeing, because on the other side there's something else to flee from. So, I mean, they're necessary things to get from here to there, and they really provide for commerce. I mean, I think that's the main reason they get built to begin with, to move goods and services around. It's not all bad. I mean, we need goods and services.
Can I ask also about the decision to reveal the places and objects to us at the end of the film?
Well, when I made 13 Lakes, I put the credits the same way, where I listed the 13 lakes that you see, and I wanted them to be like the actors in the film, so they'd be listed one at a time, but I also wanted to give them their own space, and then for you to relive the film as you read the title, so you kind of, oh yeah, that was. And I think people are recognize the Golden Gate and perhaps the George Washington, yeah. And so you kind of replay the images in your mind.
I'm sure you have questions. Yes, can you wait for the microphone in the fourth row? Thank you.
While we're waiting, I want to introduce Dylan Lustren, who is my companion on the 6 bridges. Where are you, Dylan? Stand up. Together, we got along.
Thank you, James, for the film. I was wondering if there was some particular bridge that was on your mind that you have a story connected with, but you kind of decided not to shoot it. And what's maybe the most favorite out of those?
Yeah, I didn't think of a 9th and 10th bridge. They kind of popped up, and that's the one. That's the ones I filmed. I don't know. What else do we? What was the other part of the question? I mean, the personal connections. in the Key, along the 7 Mile Bridge in the Keys, that's the old bridge, and there's no traffic on it, but the new bridge is built next to it, but the old bridge is blocking the new bridge. So it's very weird in that shot. You don't see the bridge that those cars are traveling on. And the last and only other time I had been to the Keys was 50 years ago. So I drove on the older bridge when it used to be there. And at that time I was making films with Betty Gordon, so we drove down there. And it's a kind of nice memory of, fooling around.
Did you watch the famous films that were shot on the Florida Keys Bridge?
No, I only know, I think Night Moves, which is Gene Hackman, is he in that? And I saw that film in the early 70s. And in that, he goes down to the Keys to solve some mystery, and that made me interested in the Keys, I remember. But also that film inspired me because there's a line where Gene Hackman's wife in the film asked him to go to some European filmmaker, I'm spacing the name out. Oh yeah, thank you. And he says, no, I'd rather not go. I'd seen his films, it's like watching paint dry. And when I saw that, I thought, oh, that's really the kind of films I want to make, because I think you can learn a lot from watching paint dry. The way the light changes, so that was a big inspiration on me at Night Moves. And that actually is why I went to the Keys with Betty Gordon that Christmas time, 50 years earlier. So it's funny, but I thought a lot about that first trip and actually driving on the 7 Mile Bridge and being so impressed to be on a bridge that's 7 miles long.
More questions? Where's the mic? Here.
Thank you very much. Very nice film. I grew up close to Astoria, so that was really enjoyable. I just wanted to ask, I know I read something about the film Ruhr that you did a lot of digital manipulations with the editing. I was wondering if you did anything like that in this film, or if you just really were tackling 10-minute blocks.
No, this film was shot in sync, and I hardly did anything with the sound. I got rid of some noises that would occur from time to time, but there's no real manipulation. It's really, both the sound and image are presented as documents. I mean, I do color correction, of course, but no, I didn't put any new skies in or I had done that in earlier films when I first started to do digital, because I thought it's so interesting how you can collage things and nobody knows it. So my film Small Roads was all collaged.
Thank you so much. My question is about the time, the length of the shots with 10 minutes. In your earlier films, you always, when you were shooting analog, you used like a roll of film per shot. And now in the digital age, so, I mean, this was always like measuring landscape with time. So did you just stick like with it about 10 minutes or?
Yeah, you're right. When I made a number of films. There are 3 films in the California trilogy. I used 100-foot loads, and then I ended up which is 2 minutes and 47 seconds, but I used 2 minutes and 30 seconds because I like a number that's more rounded than 47. And a 400-foot magazine of 16 would be 11 minutes, and I like 10 as a better commodity then. But it was based on those sizes of length of the film. So those structuralist parameters came from the material itself. When I made this, I wanted to make a reference back to the 10 skies and 13 lakes. So I chose that 10-minute length that came from the limitations of the material, but I know I don't have that limitation now. But I, now I just choose a length. And I thought, I didn't get very nervous. This is the first time I showed this film, and it was so fantastic to have an audience that pays attention and somewhat understands what I'm doing and don't walk out and aren't frustrated. Although that happened many years ago here, but you caught up with me. But yeah, so I see it with an audience. I think it's really important, and I probably will watch the other two also.
Which will be in other venues, and that will be also interesting because I was going to ask, you watched it from pretty far?
I was, yeah.
And I saw some people in the first row like pointing at the screen, meaning that they saw probably something that I at least didn't see because I was sitting in the back. Did you think of the dimensions?
No, because I generally don't have this large audience or theater, so it's this could become too large for this film because there's little details, but I could see them. I knew where they were though, so I knew where to look and when to look. Like the train, I thought probably maybe a few you saw the train, but no, see, you didn't. You saw it? Okay. Up front they saw it. I'm sorry, you all saw it.
Some people are waving in the back also. Fair. Does that mean also you have a question, or because? Yes.
Yeah.
Good opticians.
Will the map still be on after or is it something new on now by now?
But right now, no. But tomorrow, yes. Tomorrow, the film that is screening.
Oh, there'll be the map will be projected. That was the map outside on the wall here.
I think it's still outside, yes.
Okay. If you haven't seen it, please look at it.
It looks like actually a monstrous animal.
Yeah.
The shape of the US of A. No.
Well, China is a chicken, so I don't know. I learned that from my Chinese students. I have them draw a map of where they come from. They go, well, first I'll draw the chicken. I go, what? And then I live in the tail. Yeah. Look at China, you'll understand.
Was there another question somewhere or a comment? Yes, in the very back. Front, sorry.
So you talked about shooting bridges as, ways of getting goods and services across. Why didn't you shoot the Brooklyn Bridge or bridges in DC? Was that deliberate?
My first thought was the Brooklyn Bridge, and then my second thought was that's going to be a nightmare, just to go into Manhattan and try to find a place to put the camera. And then I thought, no, I think I want the George Washington Bridge more because it's more about the commerce that moves into Manhattan, and that's the main way that trucks get in, and I wanted to really have a bridge that represented that kind of. And then when I did research and I found 100,000 vehicles cross that bridge a day, I thought that's a pretty good example of that. But yeah, there's a lot of bridges I could have concerned, but these kind of popped out quickly for me. I knew I wanted to have one bridge across the Mississippi. I knew I wanted to do the bridge in Selma because of its politics. And I knew the San Francisco Bridge and Astoria because of this connection of going there years ago.
What about there's one bridge in bridging Iowa and Wisconsin?
Yes.
And since you are from, this is a state where also you were born, I was wondering...
I'm from Wisconsin, and I definitely wanted to have that's the Mississippi River, so I definitely wanted a bridge on the Mississippi. And then I did make that map that's being projected, and I started to put dots on it, so I needed one around the Midwest, and I thought, well, I'll do one there.
But this bridge, I don't know how you pronounce it, Dubuque, Wisconsin Bridge, is it like also connected to history for you?
No, it's in the southwestern corner of Wisconsin, and it connects to Des Moines. Is it Des Moines? Dylan, what is it? Dubuque. Yeah. And yeah, it just was in the right place. So, and it was the river was good and muddy there, and the nickname for the Mississippi is the Big Muddy. So I thought, well, that's perfect for it. And then I liked because I could get below the bridge and you wouldn't see the traffic, you just hear it, and I really liked that shot because of it. And then you hear the train too, that's on the other side of the river. Which I didn't even know there was a train track there until we were shooting, so that was one of those fortuitous events, like the helicopter that crosses, and also the ocean-going boat in the last shot.
I was asking because when there is, as you say, there are bridges that one can recognize, but then there is a familiarity about also the American mythology that you are much closer to than we are. So I was asking because when I checked the bridges and did my very superficial research, that very bridge in Wisconsin, it says that it's very near an Indian American cemetery. So I immediately thought that it had the same maybe meaning as whatever the suicides and that.
Yeah, no, I wish I would have known that because when we did the trip, we tried to look for things like that, but instead we ended up going to the boyhood home of Michael Jackson and Elvis Presley. And this wasn't my idea, this was Dylan's. He wanted to see Mary Tyler Moore's TV house in Minneapolis, which I'm with Minneapolis. So,
yeah. Is Dylan Lustring the co-director of this film in a way? Uncredited.
Yeah, sure. We went to a rodeo together on the border of Utah and Montana on... Idaho, thank you. It's keeping me honest. On Pioneer Day, which is the day that Brigham Young brought the Mormons to Utah, and it was a local rodeo that had a few professional rodeo cowboys, but mostly it was just local farmers. And the highlight of the whole rodeo was a young girl, maybe 8 or 9, that rode a calf and had her cowgirl hat going like this and made it all the way across the rodeo thing. The rest of the kids were falling on their heads, and then they'd give the kid $1 when they fell off. And I don't, maybe they gave her $2 for staying on, I don't know. But it was, that kind of thing is exciting to see, these kind of local happenings that are not really about the rodeo at all, but they're about community and kind of tradition, and makes you feel like maybe you need to learn more when you see things like that.
Is the mic somewhere? Yeah.
Thank you so much for the film. I've been following your works for many years already, and your films are always among the highlights at the Berlinale. Thank you so much. I have a rather detailed, more mathematical, technical question following up the former comment on the length of the shots. Why do you make use of some black in between the bridges, and how do you measure it? Does it also have to do with our attention? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. When I made the California trilogy with El Valle Centro and Los and Segovia, those were 2.5-minute shots, and I didn't use black. I made them butt up together. But with the 10-minute ones, I wanted to have kind of an end and cleanse the palette before you go to the next. And when I decided to remake this, I wasn't sure if I used black between when I did 10 Skies and 13 Lakes, so I had to go back and look. And then for 13 Lakes, I think I had 10 seconds of black in between. And I thought, oh, that's pretty long, so I made it 5 this time. So it's somewhat arbitrary, but I thought I wanted to get you out of one bridge and then go into another with some kind of cleansing between. But yeah, the timing, it was shorter this time than when I was younger. I thought I was more bold. Make you wait.
And what about the framing? Did you try out different ones also?
I do this and then I describe it, and then people just say, oh, it's so intuitive, but it isn't intuitive at all. I don't believe in intuition. I believe that after you work doing things, you think faster than language. And so I don't say, oh, move it to the left, get rid of that red on the corner there. I just do it. And then it happens so quickly that you recognize or at least I recognize the frame that I like, and then I stop there. But I don't want to call it intuitive, but when I describe it, it seems like it could be that way, but I think it's just thinking quicker than language, and that you end up with the place you want to be because you've had experience and thought about should be contained. So I would just do that, and then that would be the frame that I would use.
For some of us, it was an interesting combination of the program before this one, which was a Forum Expanded program with a 70mm film by Johan Lov, around 20 minutes, but using time lapse and a really interesting counter
Yeah,
counter of real-time shots, single shot, and highly manipulated landscape. So what is in the real shot, single shot, 10-minute shot that you maybe also watching this for the first time on this big screen perceive, or what's going on in your mind when you're watching these shots?
Well, I'm very much watching what the dynamics of the change is, how the sky is developing, how light might change over time, things like that. So in the Alabama River shot, I'm really watching the way the clouds are forming across after 10 minutes. And if you would do a jump cut just to the sky from the beginning to the end, it would look totally different. But because it happens and over time, you don't notice this extreme change in the sky that happens. So that over time, if you get used to watching my films, you might be looking for those kind of changes that are kind of hidden within the time frame of the shot. And other things that happen in the shot too, of course, but how the traffic pattern and some of them are busy at the beginning and then they're almost empty at the end of the shot. And the awareness of this change in traffic pattern, all of those things interest me. So I look for that. I think what I'm trying to do is teach you to learn from paying attention, and the closer attention. It's hard work to pay very close attention, not just in films, but in everyday life. You can observe things over time and notice the change. And I think there's a lot to learn from that. Guy that did house music in New York City. Dylan, what's his name?
David Mancuso?
Yeah, Mancuso. See, that he was great on the trip.
Next time we invite him on stage.
What's his name again? Mancuso. David Mancuso. He did these famous loft parties in New York City, and as a kid he lived in upstate New York, and he observed the change in the environment over time from morning to afternoon. So when he started to do these happenings in his loft, he would select records to make those same kind of arcs, and then near the end of after 12 hours, he would slow things down. From what he learned watching nature, how it slows down. And he writes very beautifully about what he learned from observing nature and then applying it to house music, which I think is fantastic. So he's an inspiration for me. Although I had those ideas before I heard of him, but he reinforced what I was doing for sure.
But then, because I remember now, all of a sudden, our conversation last year about Little Boy and your hunger for music. Was there anything like tempting to put more into this film than this?
If it would have occurred, I would have kept it, but it didn't. Yeah.
I had another question about composition. I was reminded about, when I saw the bridge, the railroad bridge, for example, I thought of William Henry Jackson, the first photographer actually who made a business in photographing the railroads and the bridges. and he defined the way one would see them by selling postcards from the 1870s. He lived up until 1940, so he lived almost 100 years, and he defined the way we saw American railroads and landscapes. I was wondering if you were trying to move away from the classical way of composing such an image, or if you see yourself maybe in the tradition of William Henry Jackson.
I'm not familiar with his work, but I'm certainly familiar with a number of photographers that have influenced me. But I think in the end it becomes my own experience with making an image and what I find works and what doesn't. And this is the first time I filmed bridges, so it was, I don't know, they're huge and they're hard to fit into a frame, and so it was a new challenge for me, I think. Yeah. But I don't think I didn't look at anybody who did film bridges, which maybe I should have.
Maybe not. We can't see, we can't hardly see.
I think we tired them out.
Don't think so, but if there are no more questions, there is. Very front. Thank you.
Yeah, for me, I like when your films turn cinemas into museums. And just want to thank you for this heavily beautiful film. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe beauty is a good ending.
Yeah, we're all beautiful.